Wait, remember Kenny the Shark? It was a staple of Discovery Kids' lineup of cartoons. It's about a shark named Kenny that decides he's done with being a predator of the sea and wants that nice suburban family life, living cozy in a nice home. This show, more specifically the character of Kenny, has always been trapped in my memory banks. Even though his design boils down to just being a shark, why can't I ever forget this specific shark? Maybe he's just that iconic. Since we've been covering a lot of Discovery Kids classics recently, I wanted to tap into another memory a lot of you might have as well. Take a look and see what Kenny the Shark was all about, and if the memories I have for it were for a real reason, or just one of those things we all collectively have a memory for no reason whatsoever. If you enjoy the video, you better subscribe. It's time to get your land legs or fins ready. Let's talk about Kenny the Shark.
You're lucky I don't like the taste of balding vegetarians.
Welcome back to the 25 Days of Fringe-Miss, where there's going to be brand new videos every single day from December 1st to December 25th. Hop aboard. Kenny the Shark follows the titular character of Kenny the Shark, but he's not just your average shark, he's a tiger shark. On top of that, an anthropomorphic tiger shark that can walk on his caudal fin, breathe air, and speak as well as understand humans. Kind of. Voiced by Jim Conroy, Kenny is done with his old ways. He no longer wishes to be seen as this predator in the sea and wants to find a new way of living out of the sea and onto the land. He ends up becoming a part of Kat's family when she and her family were in a pet store looking for the perfect pet for her, and that's when they both crossed each other's path. Sure, it is weird that a standing shark is an okay pet for a 10-year-old girl. No worries. The intro theme song sums it up real quick so the episodes don't have to. You just have to go with it because cartoon logic. Kat, voiced by Kelly Reb, can communicate with Kenny and they can understand one another, but others seem to only hear various noises coming from him, which is pretty funny because in most cases it's just Kenny tossing back some sass where it needs to apply. Kenny overall is a nice guy, shark, and often is in a good mood, just looking to have a good time in his new above sea level life. He acts closer to the fish out of water tropes that we see all of the time, here only literally, but represents actions closer to a dog, making the pet part of their relationship make more sense. He still though has some old tendencies that cause him to go feral, like the slightest hint of a seal, but the show, being a Discovery show, has an aspect of teaching you things. My rule for infotainment or edutainment is that as long as it never feels like you're force feeding me information and that there's general substance to the show itself, then I am completely fine with learning along. So while it's not accurate that a shark can survive out of the water, walk on his tail fin, speak to a human, and breathe air, they do keep a lot of shark facts within the show relevant to real sharks. Whether it's the show giving you a message about sharks not being scary nor being the aggressor unless it's provoked or under stress, to when it throws up, it turns its stomach inside out for various reasons, to scare off attackers or to regurgitate something it ate. As equally gross as it is, it's also kind of cool. If you like sharks or shark facts, then Kenny the Shark is full of them. Kat is your average girl. She's kind and adventurous and now just has a big ol' shark as a pet and best friend. She does end up getting into some trouble and situations thanks to her adventures with Kenny, often having to do with her life at home with her family, her mom Grace, voiced by Karen Culp, her dad Peter, voiced by Russell Horton, and her baby brother Carl. And ever since Kenny came into their life, nothing has been the same since.
Great! I mean, why?
Discovery Kids. We'll be back. Discovery Kids is back.
Kenny the Shark was created by Jack Huber and produced for Discovery Kids for NBC's Discovery Kids block, premiering on November 1st, 2003, ending after 2 seasons on February 19th, 2005. The show was inspired by the success of Discovery Channel's Shark Week, as well as the concept of a shark named Kenny back in 1999 and 2000, where it was these live-action shorts from the shark's perspective, giving out facts about sharks. So technically, Kenny the Shark was a character before he was a character. These shorts would premiere between regular programming on the network anyway, and it was a nice little bite of information for a cool little takeaway. As far as my thoughts on the show, I think it's a pretty alright little cartoon. It doesn't stick to a consistent formula for the characters, as Kenny will constantly struggle with desires or joking threats of eating people, but also is annoyed that others can see or view him in that light, which is nice if that was meant to be more of a complex statement about his character overall, but it really is used for the benefit of a joke or to cause action within certain situations. He's not a bad shark, but sometimes he does bad things. And for the sake of comedy, you can be looser on these set rules if it pays off in the comedy aspect, which not every time here it does. Sometimes feeling a bit redundant for the character. Kenny is still a pretty likable character though, as he does have this nice wit about him, always having to throw shade at certain people, and because of his big eyes, eyebrows, and smile full of death, he can't help but look evil or angry sometimes for literally no reason. Like, is he thinking about something devious? No? That's just his resting face sometimes? Okay then. But my real main concern with the show is the lack of something special for every other character in the show. Kenny has all of this personality and steals all of the attention in every scene he's in, which is the majority of them. Plus, he is the title character of the show. But when it comes to even someone like Kat, who I'd consider a main character next to Kenny, she just doesn't have anything special to her character aside from thinking sharks are cool and somehow is able to talk to Kenny. We see that she has friends and a life outside of the shark-filled time with Kenny, but we never really take the time to explore it enough or get to know Kat on a more personal level, only feeling like she exists to be a mouthpiece to speak to Kenny, especially when we have to deal with other humans like her parents, which, by the way, don't provide much to the show either outside of being very basic parental figures who have to deal with their daughters and Kenny's actions, feeling very much like background characters even though they are decently featured within the show. When we try to expand out from just the household itself, Kat does have a friend named Oscar that we do get to see sometimes, but aside from him just being her friend, he really doesn't have much to do, never really serving any more purpose than just being there most times. While the show really boils down to how Kenny interacts with the world and seeing his zany antics, it would have been refreshing to get some more depth through the others in the show. It truly ends up feeling like The Kenny Show, starring Kenny, and this girl, and that girl's family, and this kid, rather than a cast of unique characters, a more purposeful reason to be in the show rather than being in it for the sake of it. With that being said, Kenny himself helps keep the show interesting, carrying all of the comedic weight. He's frantic and he just does stuff. He's a ball of personality and entertainment, but by the end of the show, the charm does start to wear off a bit, not really offering too much new. We see the same tropes, repeating jokes, and all around the same discourse over and over again. And for a show that only had as many episodes as Kenny the Shark did, it feels worn too thin. There's just no real stakes ever at play, never much real conflict, and when it does happen, it can feel out of place or sometimes greatly welcomed, depending on how it's handled. Like the time Kenny gets kidnapped and we meet Burton Plush Toy III, who could be built up as a major recurring villain antagonist type, but is only ever seen a few times. He has the perfect villain backstory, being a billionaire at 10 years old. He collects exotic pets. Having him be this Team Rocket-esque character motivated on trying to capture Kenny in various ways would have been fun to see as a frequent thing. Maybe even giving the show an excuse to talk about exotic animals from around the world thanks to him collecting them. That could have expanded the show in both the interest of the viewers and in the interest of learning more about the cool animals. You can push the way he treats animals as a bad thing further from just the protesting of him cramming fish in a tank at the aquarium that he purchases. I don't want to come off as, oh, you should have done this and you should have done this and blah blah blah, I know better, because I don't. But I think there was just stuff left on the floor that could have really helped make this show a better watch through than it was. But I do, however, like the look of the show. It feels very familiar and inviting, so visually it was pleasant to look at. I like the way that some of the walls and the carpets look like, or even outside the hills and the trees in the distance look. And as far as the teaching you things aspect, it was never too in your face, but rather used as a punchline or a gag in an episode, but still giving you some information on sharks. Now, the show is limited to teaching you shark facts, similar to shows like Growing Up Creepy, delivering only on bug facts. So it has a niche and it sticks to it well enough throughout the series. My point earlier being that there was and there could have been an opportunity to expand slightly on that.
Goodbye, shark. Hello, sailor.
Discovery Kids will be back. Discovery Kids is back.
Kenny the Shark would go on to last for a total of 2 seasons, 26 episodes in all. It didn't last long and it definitely felt light on telling more stories due to not being able to feel fresh during the back half of the episodes. It does have this nostalgia level charm to it, the character of Kenny is great and all, but I don't see how they could go past a season 2 without totally changing up the overall formula. Discovery Kids focused a lot on having cartoons that specifically focused on one specific topic, to add in a level of learning. And for the most part, part, their shows all do that pretty well, but not every show had all of the other elements that make the show really good to elevate it in general. Kenny the Shark is just missing that element. It's missing another layer to make the show work better, at least in my opinion. If Kat or her family or even her friend Oscar had more to do, had something more to contribute to the overall episode, show off more personality, then I think the show would be great. There are some other side characters like Marty, the dog that is a friend to Kenny, as they can understand each other. He adds a lot more personality to the show, but even an ounce adds more to the show, especially dialogue-wise. But characters like the Phoebes are just mean to Kat to give us some mean girl type characters. They show up here and there, and that's really it. They're just mean. I wish we could have explored more animals or sea life from the show as we get some other aquatic friends or foes scattered throughout. I wish there was more of an element of going out to the sea, maybe having Kat's interest in sharks take her diving with Kenny as he shows her the ropes and how life works down there, which could tie into producing more shark facts. But that may be just wishful thinking on how I would have envisioned the show. I don't hate nor do I dislike it. I reiterate, I think it's okay. Sometimes shows are just okay, but the problem with just okay means that I am more likely to forget about the show again. It's not great enough to be legendary in the animation space, but it's also not awful enough to be remembered forever. I'm not saying that it has to be either of those things. I just wish there was something more exciting to show here, especially going back when I'm trying to scratch this nostalgic itch. But what do you think about the show? Do you remember Kenny the Shark? Were you a fan of the show? Have you gone back to watch it recently? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Later.